As the time reached 2 o'clock, the next moment the ground began to shake. The scene was in chaos. Only Shuru, who knew in advance, remained calm. He looked over the railing in shock. On the ground floor of the mall, a large hole had appeared. The dingling system prompts that the dungeon has been generated. And special mission has started. Please attack the collapsed department store. Shu Jun remained calm. He knew that the good show had just begun. At this time, under the pursuit of monsters, ordinary people were running towards the door, but found that the door had been sealed off. Fear and helplessness spread among the crowd. In this situation, Shu Jun actually jumped off the railing. A commoner was being cornered by a monster. And in this crisis, Shu Jun swept his spear to kill 2 monsters, asking the man to go to the exit to find other hunters. The previous star hunter was also hunting monsters. This is an ordinary person, catching the star hunter's clothes in fear. The star hunter looked disgusted. He pushed the woman aside and was sent right in front of a big spider. Shu Jun and En Hui arrived just in time. Seeing this scene, Shu Jun gritted his teeth in anger. Before he could act, a red-haired woman suddenly appeared and killed a monster with a single knife. Shu Jun was incredulous. He knew this woman. The woman's name is Vao Shan. In the data, she is one of the hunters who survived the destruction of Earth. But in his memory, this woman wasn't here at that time. But now is not the time to be distracted. Shu Jun quickly formed a formation with other hunters, ready to hunt the monster. As the battle began, everyone on the field showed their abilities. Different colors of energy, making the scene look like a sci-fi movie. Soon, all the monsters were cleaned up by the 4 of them. While Shu Jun and En Hui shared the joy of victory, the star hunter had a black face. He had seen Lu Enyu's resume, but the guild seemed to have not signed the contract. At this moment, he suddenly reached out to En Hui with a gentle look on his face. "Thank you for your hard work. It's much easier with you." But his hand was held by Shu Jun first. Shu Jun showed a dangerous squint. He introduced himself to the star hunter. The 2 were full of hostility. And at this moment, a woman suddenly shouted, "Who will save my child?" It can be seen on the child's arm. It was the toxin of the monster spider. If the dungeon is not killed, the toxin in his hand will not be resolved. The child's life is in danger at any time. And just then, the star hunter suddenly spoke up. "I disagree." He wouldn't risk his life for an irrelevant child. Risk his own life. "I will stay here, and my guards will stay." Shu Jun knew that if they waited for the preparation, the child would be dead. So he and Yun Hai decided to enter the dungeon. Another voice came at this time saying that emergency treatment had been done. "Just bear with it. I'll be with you too." and the one who appeared in front of them was Gaoxian Hunter. In Shu Chun's memory, he was reborn in the past life. After the dungeon was opened, Gaoxian and Chun Shuk-suan captured the dungeon together. At this time, the star hunter Chun Shu-suan spoke again. Gaoxian, I thought you were different from those kids. Are you in a hurry to die? In the next moment, Gaoxian's eyes became terrifying. Chun Shuk-suan, don't mess around. In terms of strength, you should even give up being a hunter. After solving the manpower problem, Shu Jun suggested to set off now. They walked into the deep pit. They found that under the mall, it was still the same underground parking lot as before. But there are many more dark plants. So Shu Jun led the way in front, and two girls behind. Gaoxian noticed that, although they all said they were newbies, they all have extraordinary strength. Especially this Li Shuchun is the most mysterious. At this time, Gaoxian suddenly raised her hand and said, "Before we fight, we need to appoint a commander." Then, she immediately pretended to be unconfident. Then she looked at Le Shujun with a full of scheming. "Then it's Shujun. How about it?" Although Gaoxian pretends to be harmless, but after living through a lifetime, how could she not know what he was up to? In the last life, he was one of the last hunters to survive. Unlike herself, who hides, he relied on absolute strength. This scheming guy. He is obviously testing me now. To estimate my strength? No way! Shu Jun had to show a hesitant look. He sighed and looked helpless. "Well, I have to do it." Gaoxian was directly stunned. It's too obvious. Without getting any useful information, suddenly, Shu Jun ordered to stop. The position of the monster leader seems to have been found. Not far in front of them was a purple slime. The guy that the novice used to practice. Could it be the final boss here? Gaoxian couldn't help but underestimate it. But Shu Jun still said to be careful. Soon, Gaoxian condensed magic power at his feet. He jumped into the deep pit. Since slimes are sensitive to ground vibrations, so they must land carefully. But Shu Jun and En Hui now don't have the same skills as Gaoxian. They could only climb down slowly with the climbing rope. But the next moment, an accident happened. The hook of the climbing rope accidentally fell off. Han Hui fell heavily to the ground. Meanwhile, this also made the slime react. Gaoxian quickly smiled and comforted, "It's okay, sister." Although the slime is big, but it moves slowly. But soon his expression turned into panic. Because in front of En Hui, a giant paw shadow was rapidly approaching. Fortunately, Shu Jun was quick-eyed and held En Hui to avoid the attack. Everyone's expressions became tense at this moment. What kind of slime is this? How did the king come here through the scene? The king's strength is really terrifying. Just clapping his hands, the ground cracked inch by inch. They only dared to hide in the corner and tremble. But fortunately, before going down, Sujan first took them to have a meeting. The slime is afraid of me, even if it's just for a short while, which will help them break the shell and attack the core. So Suchun's plan is Sujun and Xian would attack the slime shell. Yuan will hold back in the back, covering and setting fires in case of emergencies. Gao Xian couldn't hold back his fighting spirit. After a casual warm-up, he suggested that he should go first. Then Zhao Xian gathered magic power at his feet and excitedly rushed towards the ancient king. After narrowly avoiding several attacks, he finally got close enough to the ancient king. Then Zhao Xian squatted down half, and one hand already gripping the hilt. Shu Jun recognized this pose. It's a one-hit kill. It was Gao Xian's unique skill in her previous life. In her previous life, if Gao Xian met such a monster, she could definitely cut that guy in half. But now, with this power, enough? What Shu Jun worried about still happened. Due to Gao Xian's lack of strength, plus the corrosion of the slime to the sword, Gao Xian didn't cause any effective attack and gave the ancient king a chance to counterattack. Fortunately, Shu Jun came to support in time and also poured some gasoline on the ancient king. But they were soon chased like dogs again. Gao Xian was speechless. Even if the gasoline was spilled, there seems to be no chance to set fire. While the two were chatting, Wu Wang's attack was already coming towards Gao Xian. Shu Jun knew that at this distance, there was no chance to fight back. Was it going to be like this? But at this moment, a rocket suddenly flew past Gao Xian. He looked back at the king. It was already burning, crackling. Gong Hui looked at his attack in disbelief. He actually succeeded. Shu Jun entrusted such an important matter to him. He couldn't betray Shu Chun's trust. As the flames burned, the slime began to dissolve. Soon, the core of the Valley King was exposed, and Hui immediately grabbed her sword again, drew bow and shot arrows. Countless arrows shot towards the Valley King instantly. Shu Jun and Gao Xian also seized the opportunity, rushing towards the core of the Valley King one after another. The king was perfectly solved under Shu Chun's plan. Meanwhile, Shu Chun's father also came here with Zue. The mall was completely locked down, indicating that something big had happened. Shu Chun's father couldn't help closing his eyes. Shu Jun and In Hui said they would come here this morning. Could something happen to them? Thinking of this, Shu Chun's father's hand holding Zhuer trembled constantly. At this moment, the reporter who was broadcasting suddenly shouted in surprise. The dungeon is open. Ordinary people who were injured walked out one by one. The star hunter Chen Shuasuan shamelessly came out to steal the limelight. Shu Chen's father looked worriedly at the wounded who came out one by one, but he still didn't see Shu Jun and En Hui. Suddenly, Zuer's eyes lit up with joy. She pointed forward and said, It's mom and dad. When Zuer saw Gao Xian, she directly called her a pretty sister. Gao Xian covered her chest excitedly. It was a feeling of heartbeat. Shu Jun and En Hui could only smile bitterly. Another person was fascinated by Zuer. At this moment, Zuer suddenly called out Dad, and then pointed directly at Shu Jun. Father, Grandpa is looking for you, which made Shu Jun immediately stop smiling. Without surprise, there was going to be a storm. At this time, the TV was showing Shu Jun and En Hui's heroic deeds.